What if I told you there's a genre of music that can simultaneously make you want to cry into your pillow and dance like nobody's watching, often at the exact same moment? That, dear viewer, is the paradoxical magic of soul music. Stay tuned, because in the next few minutes, we're going to unpack its origins, its anatomy, its legends, and why it still hits us right in the feels today. And don't worry, I'll keep the facts factual, the jokes juicy, and the pace lively enough to keep your foot tapping, even if you're just listening while doing laundry. And a bonus fact at the end. Let's kick things off with a quick definition that'll make even the most hardcore music nerd nod in approval. Soul music is a genre that blends African American gospel, rhythm and blues, and jazz into a sound that emphasizes deep, emotive vocals, call and response patterns, and a groove that makes the rhythm section feel like a heartbeat. Think of it as the musical equivalent of a warm hug from your grandma, except that hug sometimes comes with a blazing horn section and a tambourine shaking like it's trying to shake off the devil. Now, before we dive deeper, a quick pop quiz. Where did soul music first scream into existence? If you answered the United States, circa the late 1950s to early 1960s, you've just earned yourself a virtual high five. The genre blossomed primarily in the South, think Memphis, Detroit, and New Orleans, but its roots stretch back to the spirituals sung by enslaved Africans, the field hollers that echoed across plantations, and the sanctified shouts of black churches. In other words, soul didn't just appear out of thin air. It was forged in the crucible of struggle, faith, and an unquenchable desire to be heard. Imagine a small church in Memphis on a Sunday morning. The congregation is swaying. The preacher is shouting, "Can I get an amen?" And the choir is answering with a roar that shakes the rafters. Now take that same energy, swap the hymns for lyrics about love, heartbreak, and everyday survival, and plug in a backing band of electric guitars, a tight rhythm section, and a brass section that could wake the dead. That, in essence, is the birth of soul, a sacred sound turned secular, yet still drenched in spirituality. One of the earliest milestones came in 1959 when Ray Charles released What Did I Say? Though often labeled R&B, the track's gospel-infused call and response, its gritty piano riff, and Charles's raw, pleading vocals set a template that soul artists would follow for decades. It was like taking a Sunday sermon and putting it on a jukebox. Suddenly the Holy Spirit had a backbeat. Fast forward to 1962, and we meet a man whose name became synonymous with soul itself, Sam Cooke. With his silky tenor and effortless charisma, Cooke bridged the gap between gospel and pop like a musical tightrope walker. His hit, You Send Me, topped the charts, proving that soul could be both commercially viable and deeply authentic. Tragically, Cooke's life was cut short in 1964, but his influence echoed through every soul singer who dared to pour their heart into a microphone. If Sam Cooke was the smooth talker, then Otis Redding was the gritty storyteller. Hailing from Dawson, Georgia, Redding's voice sounded like it had been aged in oak barrels, rich, smoky, and full of lived-in pain. His 1965 classic, Sittin' on the Dock of the Bay, released posthumously, captures a wistful longing that feels both personal and universal. Fun fact, the whistling at the end of the track? That was Otis improvising in the studio because he'd forgotten the lyrics. Talk about turning a mistake into a masterpiece. While the South was cooking up soul, Detroit was brewing its own version, Motown. Founded by Berry Gordy Jr. in 1959, Motown didn't just produce hits, it manufactured a sound that was polished, infectious, and undeniably danceable. Think of the Supremes' You Can't Hurry Love, Marvin Gaye's Ain't That Peculiar, or Stevie Wonder's Uptight, Everything's Alright. Motown's secret sauce, a house band known as the Funk Brothers, whose tight grooves made even the most reluctant listener want to shake their hips. But soul wasn't just about the glitz and glamour of Motown. In the same era, a rawer, grittier strain was emerging from places like Stax Records in Memphis. Stax artists like Booker T and the MGs, Eddie Floyd, and the legendary Isaac Hayes embraced a more organic, live room feel. Hayes' 1971 epic Theme from Shaft didn't just win an Oscar, it redefined what a soul instrumental could be, complete with wah-wah guitar, orchestral swells, and a bass line that could make a statue groove. Now let's talk about the vocal techniques that make soul instantly recognizable. First up, melisma. That's the practice of stretching a single syllable across multiple notes. Think of Whitney Houston's rendition of I Will Always Love You. Though she's more pop soul, the technique is pure gospel soul. Melisma adds emotional weight, letting a singer linger on a word like love or pain, as if they're savoring every drop of feeling. Second, the call and response tradition. In a soul track, you'll often hear the lead vocalist throw out a line, and the backing singers or horns answer back. It's a musical conversation that mirrors the interactive nature of Black church services, where the preacher speaks and the congregation replies. This creates a sense of community. Even if you're listening alone in your bedroom, you feel like part of a choir. Third, the use of dynamic contrast. Soul singers aren't afraid to go from a whisper to a full-throated wail in the span of a few seconds. This dramatic swing mirrors the highs and lows of life itself. Joy one moment, sorrow the next. It's why a soul ballad can leave you breathless, and an upbeat soul funk track can make you forget your troubles entirely. Let's not forget the instrumental backbone. The rhythm section, drums, bass, and often a Hammond organ, lays down a groove that's both tight and loose enough to breathe. The bass lines are often melodic, locking in with the kick drum to create a pulse you can feel in your chest. Horn sections, trumpets, saxophones, trombones, add punctuation, punctuating phrases like exclamation points in a heartfelt letter. And the guitar? Whether it's the clean, funky licks of Jimmy Nolan or the gritty, overdriven tones of Eddie Hazel, the guitar adds texture that ranges from chic to raw. If you're still with me, give yourself a pat on the back. You've just absorbed a whirlwind tour of soul music's history, sound, and cultural impact. If you're enjoying this deep dive into soul, smash that like button, drop a comment with your favorite soul track, and share the video with a friend who needs a good groove in their life. Your engagement helps keep these videos coming, and honestly, it makes my day to see you all vibing along. Speaking of texture, let's take a quick detour into the lyrical themes that soul loves to explore. At its core, soul music is about the human condition: love, loss, longing, hope, and resilience. You'll find songs that celebrate the euphoria of new love, Let's Stay Together by Al Green. Songs that lament betrayal, I Heard It Through the Grapevine by Gladys Knight and the Pips. And anthems of empowerment, Respect by Aretha Franklin. Yes, that's a soul anthem, not just a cover. The lyrics are often direct, conversational, and steeped in everyday language, making them instantly relatable. Now a quick side note for the trivia buffs. Did you know that the term soul as a musical label was popularized by journalist Jerry Wexler? While working at Atlantic Records in the late 1950s, Wexler began using soul to describe the music coming out of the South that blended gospel fervor with R&B rhythm. He once joked that he coined the term because he was soul-searching for a good label. Whether true or not, the name stuck, and it perfectly captures the genre's essence. Let's swing into the 1970s, a decade often hailed as the golden era of soul. With the civil rights movement in full swing, artists began using their platform to address social justice. Marvin Gaye's landmark album, What's Going On, 1971, is a masterclass in socially conscious soul. Tracks like Mercy Mercy Me, The Ecology, and Inner City Blues weave lush orchestration with poignant lyrics about pollution, poverty, and war. It was a bold move, turning the dance floor into a pulpit, and it paved the way for future artists to blend activism with artistry. Around the same time, Philadelphia International Records, headed by Kenny Gamble and Leon Huff, gave birth to the Philly sound. Think lush strings, sweeping horns, and a sophisticated production style that made songs like If You Don't Know Me By Now, Harold Melvin and the Blue Notes, and Me and Mrs. Jones, Billy Paul, sound like cinematic soul operas. The Philly sound proved that soul could be both gritty and glamorous, raw and refined. But the story doesn't end in the 70s. The 1980s saw soul intersect with the rise of synthesizers and drum machines, giving birth to subgenres like contemporary R&B and quiet storm. Artists like Luther Vandross, Anita Baker, and Sade kept the soulful vocal tradition alive while wrapping it in modern production. Meanwhile, Prince, though often labeled funk, rock, or pop, infused his music with so much soul that tracks like Purple Rain and Kiss still feel like they're dripping with gospel-laden emotion. Enter the 1990s and early 2000s, and we witness the neo-soul movement. Spearheaded by artists such as Erykah Badu, D'Angelo, and Lauryn Hill, neo-soul looked back to the classic sounds of the 60s and 70s, while incorporating hip-hop beats, jazz improvisation, and spoken-word poetry. D'Angelo's Brown Sugar, 1995, is a perfect example. Its languid groove, falsetto vocals, and lyrics that flirt with both sensuality and spirituality capture the essence of neo-soul. Reverent, innovative, and deeply groove-oriented. Fast forward to today, and soul's DNA can be heard everywhere. From the sultry vocals of Adele, Rolling in the Deep, to the genre-blending brilliance of Bruno Mars, Locked Out of Heaven. From the gospel-infused power of Leon Bridges, River, to the experimental soul of artists like Thundercat and FKA Twigs. Even hip-hop leans heavily on soul samples. Think of Kanye West's Through the Wire, sampling Chaka Khan's Through the Fire, or Drake's Started from the Bottom, which flips a soulful hook from I'm So Proud by The Impressions. The genre's influence is so pervasive that you could argue soul is the secret sauce in much of modern popular music. Now for a moment of levity, let's talk about the stereotypical soul singer image. Picture a performer in a sharp suit, hair perfectly coiffed, belting out a ballad, while a single spotlight catches a glistening tear on their cheek. While that image certainly exists, thanks Aretha, soul musicians are as diverse as the genre itself. You've got the funk-filled stage divas like Chaka Khan, the laid-back groove masters like Al Green, the experimental virtuosos like Meshel Ndegeocello, and even the soulful rap singers like Anderson .Paak, who blur the lines between singing, rapping, and playing drums, all while looking effortlessly cool. Let's also bust a myth. Soul music isn't just slow and sad. Sure, there are tearjerkers, but there are also up-tempo tracks that make you want to jump on a table and start a conga line. Take James Brown's I Got You, I Feel Good. Often called the godfather of soul, Brown's shouted vocals, punchy horns, and infectious rhythm are pure adrenaline. Or consider Tina Turner's Proud Mary, which starts slow and builds into a high-octane romp that showcases her powerhouse vocals and unstoppable energy. Soul can be a slow burn or a fireworks show. It all depends on the mood the artist wants to convey. Now let's talk about why soul music matters beyond the charts and the dance floors. At its heart, soul is a testament to resilience. It emerged from communities that faced systemic oppression, yet it turned pain into beauty, struggle into song. When you listen to a soul classic, you're hearing the echo of ancestors who sang to keep their spirits alive, the cry of activists who used melody to spread messages of hope, and the joy of everyday people who found solace in a shared rhythm. From a sociological perspective, soul music helped break down racial barriers in the music industry. Motown's crossover success proved that black artists could dominate mainstream charts without compromising their artistic integrity. This paved the way for greater representation and opened doors for genres like hip-hop, which often samples soul records to create new dialogues between past and present. Psychologically, studies have shown that music with strong emotional content, like soul, can trigger the release of dopamine and oxytocin, the feel-good hormones that promote bonding and pleasure. In other words, when you feel chills listening to Aretha's Respect, or get a lump in your throat hearing Otis Redding's Try a Little Tenderness, your brain is literally rewarding you for connecting with the music on a deep level. Culturally, soul has influenced fashion, dance, and even language. The soul walk, a smooth, confident stride often seen in performances by artists like James Brown, became a staple of stage presence. Slang terms like groovy, funky, and solid entered the vernacular, thanks to soul lyrics and the way artists talked about the music. And let's not forget the iconic afros, dashikis, and sharp suits that became visual signatures of the soul era, styles that still inspire contemporary fashion today. If you've made it this far, thank you for letting soul music fill your ears and hopefully your soul. Please consider subscribing to the What Is channel, ringing the notification bell so you never miss an episode. Every like, comment, and share helps us keep digging into the fascinating stories behind the things we love. Your support fuels the research, the scripts, and the occasional coffee-fueled midnight brainstorming session that makes these videos possible. Before we close, I promised you a bonus fact. Here it is. The very first Grammy Award for Best R&B Vocal Performance, Female, later recognized as a soul category, was awarded in 1968 to none other than Aretha Franklin for her rendition of You Make Me Feel Like a Natural Woman. Interestingly, the song was written by Carole King and Jerry Goffin, two white songwriters from Brooklyn, proving that soul's magic can transcend the backgrounds of its creators, as long as the heart is in the right place. Now, as the final note fades, I'll leave you with this thought. Soul music isn't just a genre you listen to, it's a feeling you carry. Whether you're nursing a broken heart, celebrating a triumph, or just needing a soundtrack to your daily grind, soul has a way of meeting you right where you are, and lifting you up, one heartfelt note at a time. Thanks for watching, and remember, keep it soulful.